Since Dark Messiah is really more of a first-person shooter with RPG elements, we wanted the score to reflect that. So it's very aggressive, brutal, in your face, and we wanted to convey that feeling more than the typical fantasy score. So while I still used a large orchestra and choir, it was then Sasha's turn to really sort of make the score unique.
Well, we had, one of the goals was to really make the percussion section, at least of the game, really massive and brutal and really bring it up to the next level and kind of reflect the game's dark and, you know, brutal combat, kind of mix that in with Chris's stuff, and I think we got a really good mixture out of it.
Well, for the score, we didn't want to do the typical fantasy route. So we were thinking this score needs to sound ancient. It needs to sound primitive somehow. So when I was writing the orchestra, I was thinking, what's more primitive than drums, really? So I made the orchestra actually sound very percussive. It's very rhythmic. While it has its melodic side to it, it's also, I would say, not super melodic. It's just more, it's very just aggressive playing all the way through. And to stay with the whole primitive idea, I set the whole choir, they were singing in Sanskrit, which is a very old language. And bringing them together in Prague, we recorded a large choir and orchestra in Prague, and it was in a very historic place. So there's just a sense of just old that goes through the whole score. It's ancient and just brutal.
Well, this was the perfect project to really go all the way out there and really start up with, we started off going outside and sampling, you know, hitting metal sounds, you know, taking huge chains and just hitting them onto, you know, different kinds of stones and different kinds of materials. And then I would sample that, put it back into the computer, and with the Kima workstation I would then edit and modify the sounds to give it a sense of weight to them. We did that, and just the overall focus on the percussion was to get this massive, larger-than-life sound, really. I mean, really, if I could compare it to anything, it would be movie-like quality percussion. You know, just anything you could pretty much hit on or bank on, that was recorded and basically used as addition to percussion. And in terms of freedom, we had really, you know, there was a certain style what they wanted, but it was still up to us to kind of like sort of invent that Dark Messiah sound. And I think it was really amazing to see that you know, we were working on a piece, and I'm looking at Chris and I go, is this crazy or is this great, or we're not sure exactly. And then to hear, of course, back from them that they love it, and that's exactly the kind of direction they want to go.
Yeah, and what's cool is that once we set up our basic template, you listen to any track in the whole score and you go, oh, that's from Dark Messiah. I mean, each track is different, but it all sounds like this is the world of Dark Messiah.
It's the Dark Messiah sound.
We love working with Arcane, right? I mean, the idea that the Might and Magic franchise, something that there's so many fans here at Valve of all of the different versions of that game that have come out over the year, and the guys at Arcane coming together, it's just like, for us, one of the most exciting things that could be happening. First off, they do a great job of using the technology we already have. Their ability to take advantage of high dynamic range rendering is astonishing. Their artists really understand what the capabilities are. The artificial intelligence is probably one of the areas they've pushed the hardest. You can see this, for example, in how their bosses have great situational awareness, the ability to use the environment against you, as well as at the tactical level. For example, when you see goblins who recognize that they're hopelessly outmatched, run away, find a group of other goblins, and then wait to ambush you. The thing that I'm most impressed by is their melee combat system. I can't imagine that any game developer or RPG developer on the PC or console is not going to be struck by the advances they've made in this part of game design. There's so much NPC player character interaction. You're pushing, you're shoving, you're knocking things into spikes. And that's an area where the engine had to be modified and extended in order to provide that level of support. So Arcane has done this great job of extending Source, of starting from this sense of a cinematic moment, like cutting all the ropes on a bridge and watching all of these NPCs fall to their doom, rather than just saying, okay, now you got a whole bunch of people that you can fight. And then taking that experience and saying, okay, now let's work through the details. How does the physics system need to change? How does the AI need to change? What do we have to do between our animation system and how the AI is driving it? So you get that great moment, that great experience that you've always thought about from movies, but now you can experience it in a game. For us, at the end of the day, it's tremendously exciting because we finally get to play a game based on Source that we're all incredibly excited about.